Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Country Club Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Leo McMahon. Today we have with us Derrick Griffitts of the Clear Creek Golf Center in Shelbyville, Kentucky. Welcome, Derrick.
Hey, Leo, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great having you. We were just talking before we hit the record button, and we were going through Derrick's startup in the golf business. So, Derrick, tell us about the first time you hit a golf ball in your life, and take us from there on your journey.
Uh, I probably shared like most journeys, golf never being on your radar, and then you grab a club, and it's like you've just found a treasure that you weren't looking for. I was born in Southern Indiana, and it's sort of a farming, agriculture sort of community, as in most of the area around here, even in Kentucky. Um, but my grandpa, he had an old shed out back, and I always loved to go back there and just toy around, and he had some old powerboat golf clubs that they weren't wooden shafts, but they had the wooden laminate on it. The laminates coming out. I just thought they were cool, and I started hitting some walnuts. That was the first thing. I didn't know what to do, and then he had some balls. He said, "Well, there's golf balls back there too." So I grabbed some golf balls out of a bag, and I hit it, and I enjoyed it. But then it was my mom. She remarried, and we moved to Kentucky. And my stepdad, who was very influential to my golf career, he introduced me to golf, and it was a way to bond with him. And I think one of the first times we hit, he took me to a sod farm because it was he had a buddy who had a sod farm, and still in the mid '80s, it was sort of um, what should I say? It was definitely public courses were accessible, but there weren't as many public courses. But it was still private was still private, and we were definitely blue collar. So we went out to a sod farm. And he had some golf balls, and he just showed me how to chuck balls out of the sod farm, and I was hooked as soon as he put a club in my hand, and so that was it. And you know, um, after that, we found a public course like most places. He took me there and
Just to
told me,
cut you off 1 second,
yeah,
how long was the grass on the sod farm? Did they cut it pretty tight, or?
it was longer. And it was funny. I was playing baseball too at the time, and he said we'll practice baseball and golf. So he let me hit, but then when he hit, he had me. I was probably 8 years old. He had me out in the field, and he would hit wedges, and I would catch pop flies with the golf balls, and that way he didn't have to look through the grass as much, I guess. So, but yeah, I imagine like I can't even remember what type of grass. It was probably a bluegrass, fescue, somewhat like most grows around here. So, uh, it wasn't short. So I
I
know
always
that.
wondered because sod farms look beautiful, but I never saw them up close to see
Yeah.
what length the grass was.
Now I can't believe I don't know I was 8 years old because I can't remember all the details, but I remember that was the first experience with going out and sort of hitting balls was him on that sod farm, and then we went to the public course. And I can tell you, I was hooked. I found a Pinnacle 384. I don't know if you remember, but they were hot when they came out. Now, you wouldn't even look twice at them, but I remember finding a Pinnacle 384 over a fence at this public course called Juniper Hills in Frankfurt. And I thought I had just hit gold. And I don't know, there's so many of those memories. I'm sure everybody else shares those things, but or has those things to share. But it's those things that stand out that were just so great about golf in the beginning. Um, First swings, and here I am still 40 something years later doing
So
my
eight
thing.
years old, you started. That's pretty cool. So, what was the first dollar you made in the golf industry?
Mm. Oh, well, aside from those little practice putting green games, going out and trying to hustle a dollar from your buddy, I would imagine picking range balls. I was about 12 years old over at we joined a country club when I would think probably 9 or 10, and just right across the street, Blue Collar Country Club. Um, and shortly thereafter, probably 2 or 3 years, they let me start picking range balls. So That's when I made my first honest dollar on a golf course. But it was different.
uh,
Picking range balls was different even then. I mean, we had a driving range at that country club that it was a pick your own, and then there was a club pick sort of portion to it, and it was. I'm very thankful for the new pickers we have these days because
right, right.
I can remember going out in a cart cover and very little to protect yourself. Um, but it great memories there.
So you played high school golf?
I did. I played 6 years. I did okay. It was a great experience. I'm still buddies with most of my teammates. Three of us out of our starting five, basically, my senior year, three of us are PGA professionals.
Nice.
So, and we're all still fairly local. Um, and so you have those bonds forever. I mean, every one of them
Right,
I could
right, right, right,
call up, and I'm sure you've got golf buddies like that. I don't
right.
know exactly everything about your history, of course, and but playing on a golf team. I didn't play in college. I turned professional, but that club professional. Um, but that high school golf was so much fun going to after school. I mean, it was just like free golf, and we'd go play different courses, and we were just kind of the rat pack of our little county, and we had fun. We had fun.
Yeah, we're having our 50-year reunion this year of my golf team, and we're still all eight guys are still close. One guy passed away, but all the rest of us were still close. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Oh, it
Our
is.
coach is our coach is still alive, as a matter of fact.
Oh my good. There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Well, that's great. And it is. It's just such a bond, and you try to impose that or express that to new and upcoming players that it's not just about the scholarships and it's not just about the playing opportunities, but it's the life opportunities with your pals. I mean, and there's other. I'm sure those that are um, on other teams or do other things in the military together, work together, or go to the same church or what have you. They've got bonds, but there's something strong about that golf bond. We can
right,
always get.
right, right,
Haven't seen them in 5 years. We could, hey, play a scramble together or do something, and it's just like we hadn't left. So it's good.
right. Exactly, exactly. So three of you are PGA professionals, so you must have had a pretty good team. I'm thinking.
We had a fair team. Yeah, we didn't win our state tournament. And I think we finished runner up 2 years in a row in our regionals. Um, and we were that kind of at that point in time it was four scores, and now they do best four out of five. We were that kind of break 320 team. We wanted, and even then, back then, par was a great score. You know what I mean?
Right,
Nobody was shooting. These high school kids weren't shooting six,
right,
7 up. If you
right,
shot on par, you were the talk of the next day, or at least
right.
around here. So, we were shooting. We were all in that kind of upper 70s. We were shooting.
So
I think we shot a three. I think we shot a 310 one time, and that was about as good as we got.
so give me one good high school golf story that you remember.
Oh, one good high school golf story. I'm trying to think of the ones that I could tell. Because even then, high school kids are a little probably still don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know if I have one right on top of my head. I mean, when we played, I can tell you one that I remember more than anything was we were playing this tournament, which I believe was it was our regionals my junior year, and I was coming in with like I don't know, I was tied for the lead or something. I was like one or two over, and I chucked it over the green on the last hole over water and under a tree, and my teammate comes out and I had punched or taken an unplayable and punched down from the hole, and I was like 5 feet or something. He comes down, and he said, "You got to make this putt for us to go state. I just want you to know." And I was like, and then I just hammed it. I weak sided it and didn't get it there, and I think I made a triple on that hole and shot like 77 or something. And he comes back to me. I said, "Why'd you tell me that?" And he said, "I was lying." He said, "You need a two putt." So he told me I needed one putt. and was just messing with me. So I'd make sure I just didn't want you to three putt. And so it was good. We loved each other and hated each other at the same time, and that's what makes it such a strong bond. So
How was your coach? Did you have a good coach on that team?
like most of us, we had a coach that was, and it was an educator that played golf, wasn't by any means a golf professional. I had one from my seventh grade year through our junior year. Coach Holder was his name. Fantastic guy. Still run into him, and I'm like one of my parents. I mean, he's a great guy. He was just more of an educator. He got us to tournaments, tried to keep us out of trouble.
Right.
uh, made sure that everybody, because at that point in time, the students could drive each other to these matches and things after school, and it wasn't as restrictive as it was now, which rightfully so. I'm sure it was a little more dangerous back then.
Right.
Um, but um, he would make sure we all got there safely and got back and get us a golf, get us new golf bags about every 2 years. And um, So, and then my last year, I had a new coach, and I lost some of my other buddies. Sorry, it's pro shop life here today. Phones. I've got the phone hub in my office. My apologies.
No
Um,
problem.
um, and then there was Steve Watts was our Coach Watts was my last year, and that was my best year. I finished on the first team All State and didn't have all my buddies, but that was the highlight of my high school career. And then after that, it's the life of a grower of the game.
So you didn't play college golf.
Took my players ability test when I was a sophomore in college after I was
Okay.
in business and started working clubs summer after my sophomore year and that's where I wanted to go to UK, University of Kentucky. That's the only place I wanted to go. And I was a basketball fan. Not as strong these days, but still blue. Um, and the coach just wasn't really recruiting in
So
state
who
or
who who was the coach of Kentucky when
his name was he was a
who was the
PGA.
basketball coach? Who was the basketball coach for Kentucky back
Uh,
then?
well, the basketball coach was Patino at the just before I got there, and then Tubby Smith, and then at the end of my right after I graduated was Gillespie,
Did
I
they win
think.
any national championships while you were there?
I had the best run at Kentucky I couldn't have planned any better. I had two national championships, runner up, and Elite Eight. We beat Alabama in football for the first time in like 83 years
Wow.
or something.
Wow.
We had Tim Couch as a quarterback, and it just had some good players, and honestly, I believe that game was the first game that sort of started the practice of making the goalposts movable or retractable after the game because the students climbed the goalposts and brought them down, and some kids
Right.
got hurt, and then that brought that conversation. But no, and at Kentucky when I talk about the basketball, it's like Derrick Anderson and Ron Mercer and um, those guys were there, and it was a dominant force. We thank goodness it was after the Leitner shot that shook the world.
Right.
But
That was some
that was in
shot. Yeah.
high school. Um, but no, I think we did national championship '96, and that was my freshman year. Runner up my sophomore
Beautiful.
year. We won national championship again. I think against Michigan State. I believe uh my junior year, and then Elite Eight. I think my senior year. So
Yeah, that is a nice run.
some good times. There was some good times at Kentucky.
So you passed your player ability test your sophomore year. So you were working at a club and going to college.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did the summer thing for I did the summer thing for the summer after my sophomore year and the summer after my junior year, and then I went full time as an assistant my senior year and went to school. And but by that time, the groove of school, and you're kind of seeing the light in the tunnel. Kind of wish I stayed in and got my MBA, but I wanted to just go ahead and start down the PGA path. So and that was 90. That was 99, I believe.
So you get out of college. What's your first job out of college?
I was an assistant golf professional for a course in Lexington that's no longer there. They've actually bulldozed it and put a house. It was a private club, huge history. I actually had
Wow.
Hogan come play there in the late 50s. Had a bunch of pictures of Hogan playing there. It was called Spring Valley Golf Club, and before that, it was Spring Lake Country Club. Um, I was assistant there for about 18 months, 20 months, something like that, and had worked a private club, the nice private club called Hurstbourne the summer before. Um, and so I always tried to stay working at courses because I did the normal college working in a restaurant and cooking and bar backing and everything you do, and
Nice. Good experience. Good
that was rough
experience.
work. Yeah, I spent a number of hours in the dish tank and behind the fry grill and I worked in Applebee's and
That's
lost part of
great experience.
lost part of a thumb there. That's another story. And yeah, it made me appreciate and but like anything else, you know where the path is and you're glad you take good paths sometimes. So here I am.
So I worked in all departments, played a lot of sports, but the teamwork in a kitchen and a food and beverage department, I've never experienced anything like it. Have you
Wild.
say the same thing?
Yes, sir. It's wild, especially when you get that pop, you know.
Right?
And I still say 86. If something's out, I'll say 86 86 carts right now. If we run out of carts or something and
Right.
everybody's like, "What are you talking about 86?" And but it's you got to be tough working that line because
Right.
there's no time for feelings on the line. I mean,
Right.
it's like, get your stuff in the window, get your prep done and get to show on the road. I mean,
And it's
uh
definitely a team atmosphere too. There's no
yes.
there's no individuals in those
No,
kitchens.
no, it rolls. It was a good experience. I was fry side though, so Lord, you come home smelling like grease and caked in grease and but I did that for about, I don't know, about a year, give or take, in there during college. So
Interesting. So when did you give your first golf lesson?
mm, um I attempted my first lesson probably when I was at Spring Valley. I mean, you give tips and things like that, but your first lesson that you schedule and you get paid a respectable rate for, and you're not like, oh, this one's on me. I just let me. I think that was at Spring Valley. You get paid at that time. An assistant might get $20, $25 for a lesson, and uh, and that was the first time. But then I went to after I was at Spring Valley, I went back to Louisville and was at a course called Oxmoor Country Club, and then went from outside staff to interim GM or interim head professional in about 20 to about 2 years, and then left and went to a club down in Bardstown as a GM. But I was a non-member GM, so I still hadn't gotten my Class A yet. Um, and that's one thing I think I rushed. I think sometimes we rush, and if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't have rushed out of that. Tried to become a head professional too fast. You just gotta stay in there and dig, but the opportunity was there, and I gave a number of lessons at Oxmoor, and uh, actually I came up with at Oxmoor is where I came up with one thing I do now is I always give notes after it's over on a little pad, but I actually had prescription pads printed, but it was a GX for golf prescription instead of RX.
Right,
It was a
right, right,
GX.
right.
And so my mother still had, I gave her a lesson one time and she still has hers framed. So, when you're not the head professional, you're able to kind of just feel yourself out a little bit. You don't have as much of the heat on you all the time. So you can kind of make mistakes and try things
Be a little
and,
creative.
and be creative. So that was important for me at Oxmoor to be a little creative and it's still with me today. So
So I see it looks like you have a pretty extensive background of working with juniors too.
I do. I have been pretty blessed here. I'm at my facility, to give you a little idea, we're a 9-hole executive municipal facility located in the middle of a 200-acre park. So I see soccer fields and baseball fields and tennis courts and basketball courts all day around me.
Wow.
Um, and so it's just a hub of just youth activity. And growing up here in Shelbyville, a lot of my um, peers or fellow graduates now have children, and so I've been fortunate to get a good reputation, and rightfully so. I try to promote the right things, and just like they're my kids, I try to um, teach, be a good person, be a good golfer, be a good friend, respect the game, respect yourself, and so just with that, I've been able to garner a lot of attention here locally and get some juniors, and built a pretty good little um, what do you say reputation, and have taught with worked with a lot of kids. So it's been good. A lot of them now are coming back after and most, like most professionals, you see them. You've been coaching or teaching 15 years. Now they've graduated and they've got their own job and they've got their kids. And so it's fun to see your
Beautiful.
kids grow up, have their own kids, and come into the range, and they're like, you introduced me to this, so now I want to introduce it to them. So it's fun seeing that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Basically, you just said I introduced them to the game and I taught them how to be a gentleman or a lady on the golf course, basically, and in life, and hopefully those lessons would rub off on them. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's not creating the next Jack Nicklaus or whoever. It's helping them become a better person in any way you can.
Amen. Amen.
So you coach a high school golf team, I saw.
I do. Well, yeah, I do. I still do. I have stepped down as head coach. I'm a volunteer coach now. I still go to tournaments. It was so difficult to get out. I help them with their fundraising. I taught them all in private lessons anyway. So the admin work started since I'm not on site at the schools. It's a little tough sometimes to, we're already sort of tied to our facility, and it's tough sometimes to break loose and go get a purchase order uh, in person for a couple buckets of range balls at your next uh, golf event, and so I had to give that up. But still, I'm still heavily involved with the team. I still, as an assistant or as a volunteer assistant, I still go to their tournaments or the ones that I can make it. It still allows me as a volunteer now. I can teach on my weekends because I had to lose a couple weekends. So I'm able to kind of coach a little bit more on my terms now and balance it a little bit better, and still um, really help the team thrive, and share some things that I was explaining to you or shared with you about my experience with high school golf. So, that's what I want to do, and I want to be successful. But it's just a hard balance with all the things that I've got going, and the head coach was, but I was 4 years as the girls' head coach, and each year we took somebody to the state tournament. Um, I think in my
Now,
five.
is girls golf big in Kentucky high schools?
It is. They have. I would imagine that it's not as big as some of the areas in the country. I guess like Southern California or Florida or whatever. I'm sure that there's plenty other places that are really hot spots. Um, I think that we've got. I would say it seems like there's about 70 teams in the
Okay,
out of about 125 counties.
right.
So 75 maybe, and of that you got anywhere between 4 to 10 girls on a team. So may have 1,000 players in
So
the
it's
state.
growing.
It is. It's growing. It's holding steady. But girls golf is so difficult in recruiting. It's um they don't want to. I've found that a lot of the girls don't want to get out on the golf course. They want to practice. I think it's a safety thing. I think they like being at the pro shop. some of the guys, you can't get them to practice. The boys, you can't get them to practice. They just want to go to the course and go disappear on the course. And the girls, I found that I've had my um, sort of greatest challenge getting them out to put rounds on the board. You got to get, you can't practice, 30 days straight and then go play a tournament and then think that
Right,
since I'm
right.
prepared on the range, I'm prepared on the course. And that's been the most challenging. But some of them do. We've had some girls that just love to get out there, but it's been difficult recruiting. I've tried everything. We've went to schools and but it's the main thing about it. It's not a quick process. They have to have some connection. You have to start the roots early. And even then, it's not the coolest sport, honestly. A lot
Right.
of them, volleyball, they love the volleyball. They like the team thing. I don't think a lot of the girls want the individual attention. That they like the team and we can lean on each other. That's what I found. It may be different, and I'm not female, so
I know it's been like 20, 30 years since I taught junior golf, but it seemed like with girls when I was coaching from like the age of 7 to 12, they would go after it pretty hard. And
Mhm.
then somewhere around 12, 13, 14 years old, they just dropped the game like a hot potato for some reason. And I could never figure it out.
It's yeah, it's definitely a puzzle. It's definitely a challenge. And boys have their own challenges too. I've seen that. I think there's a lot of the um, well, I could speculate. I would say stubbornness on the but everybody could be stubborn. So,
Right.
but they just like to get out and play. They don't like to practice what I've seen as much as the girls. And I think the girls, the number one thing that I try to do is get them on the course. You can practice. You can practice. It's okay to fail. Doesn't have to be perfect. Get out there and play. Let's play.
Right.
But they
Right.
normally, most of my girls, there's a big friend thing with it. They've got to, it's really good when they
Right.
have a friend with them to play. Finding that friend, and I found that some of them don't stay friends all the time. You don't know the inner workings of everything. So, it's definitely a juggling act, but it's fulfilling. They are just as driven and committed as any other player and talented and um but it's been good. It's been a good experience coaching
So
those
give
guys.
me one success story of working with a junior golfer, and it doesn't have to be necessarily golf success, life success. Give me one success story you had working with a junior golfer.
Okay. Hmm. Well, I think the one that steps out the most to me, or that I single out the most, is when I'm working with someone who has a unique challenge,
Very
like an
good.
autistic challenge.
Right.
Um, and I had one kid who um, he really sort of unplugged or never plugged in. Then he doesn't unplug, but he just never plugged in. And we always gave him nicknames for PGA Junior League. And once he got a nickname, it just opened him up. He was like, I'm in this. And so, as we continued through the season, the more he got called the nickname, or we called him the nickname, um, Birdie Macon Braden. His name was we call him Birdie Macon, Birdie Macon, and and he just opened up, and that was really probably the biggest success story because I just saw him not too long ago, and he's coming to the golf course on his own with his buddies, but he wasn't his mom. She told me before that he would not. He was just so sort of disengaged. But it's good to see. I don't know if I had that impact or we had that impact, but it's cases like that really inspire me to continue to keep doing the things we do.
How old is he now?
He is I think he just graduated. He's a senior in high school, getting ready to graduate. And I think I
Right.
had him when he was 11, 12. So it's
So,
been a number of years ago.
so how many years have you been at the Clear Creek Golf Center?
This is my 17th season.
So you've seen, like you were saying, some of your students are bringing back their own kids. That has to be
Oh
a
yeah.
great feeling. It's got to be a
It
great
is.
feeling.
It is, especially when they ask me for. Can you give my kid a lesson? You gave me good lessons. I mean, that's what better a word of mouth than a parent, than a lesson that you gave a parent that now they
That
want
is
their child.
good.
So yeah.
So on your resume, on your what I researched here,
Mhm.
you're a golf course superintendent also?
I am.
Wow.
Well, let me pay some respect to superintendents.
Okay.
Okay. I'm a superintendent by necessity, but I'm in my 13th season of necessity. So, fortunately,
I'm
I'm at a
impressed, by the way. I'm very
well, thank,
impressed.
thank you. Fortunately, I'm at a muni track, so not saying that we have a higher tolerance for imperfection here, but if it's an 18-hole facility, 150 acres, there's just no way to handle the two. I got 40 acres. I got about let's see, I got about 6 acres of actual pretty maintained and sprayed and irrigated area. Another 11 to 15 that I spray, rough ground and things like that. Um, but when we were going through the Great Recession of '08 and '09 got tough, and golf really from when I took this place on in '07, they were looking to close it down, and it's been a lot of pressure for these little municipal facilities to because places like this when they built golf back in the early '90s, it was kind of build it and they will come. They didn't really have to have much of a game plan. It was so
Right.
popular as fast as they could get it up, and they had good success all the way through what 2004, 2005, and it started sort of declining, and then '08 hit, and it just hammered the golf business, and at least in our area. And so we were looking at where things were gonna go for us and how we're gonna keep the doors open. And my superintendent at that time, he was a great guy, Vietnam veteran, farmer, was not a golfer. He grew good grass, maybe not playable grass, but he grew good grass, and so never had that issue. But he was going to hang it up after 24 years of service, and that was in 2011. And I got with our parks director, and we were just trying to figure out. I said, well, in 2009, right after away, and I said, well, he's going to go in 2 years. That's what he indicated to us. And I said, I'll go ahead and start training, shadowing, and I did that and did a satellite course from University of Georgia. I got my turf grass certification there, um, and then did my spray license and all that stuff. But um, you just learn as you go. Make mistakes. I've lost a part of greens, and that's a
So,
terrible feeling.
so
And
what exactly do you have at your facility? Do you have a driving range?
I have a driving range. I've got 9 holes, six
Oh,
par threes,
okay.
3 par 4s. We built a little practice hole, me and some Eagle Scouts, on the side of the driving range, which is really cool. So I have about 55,000 square foot of greens. So just about I don't know, acre and a quarter or something like that. Um, I have about 4.5 acres of fairway. So that's where I get about 6 acres of manicured plus T space. T space is just shy of an acre. Um, but what I was going to say, pay respect to superintendents. I'm there by necessity. There are some real pros in agronomy, and I'm not that pro. I am definitely more suited to golf and the golf swing and golf clubs and the game, but it's part of it. And I think that's how I've been, successful and received some. I'm grateful for some accolades because I'm sort of unique. Not many will juggle that. I come in and do. There's plenty of times that I've come in boots and get muddy and go home at noon and shower and come back and teach the rest of the afternoon in golf clothes. Um, I've taught lessons in boots, unfortunately. I didn't want to, but I didn't have any shoes here
Do you
with me.
remember Tom Wargo?
I remember the name.
He played on the senior tour,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
and he owned a golf course in Missouri,
Hmm.
and he did pretty well on the senior tour. And they said, well, and I think he was
Did he
tied
have
for
a
the
big
lead.
mustache?
Yeah, he was tied for the lead in the PGA Championship, and he was in a playoff on Monday. And they said, well, how you going to do? how do you compare to Arnold Palmer or Jack Nicklaus, right? He says, well, he says, I like to see Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus flip some burgers, mow some fairways, cut down some trees, and on the seventh day tee it up and shoot 72. He says, because that's
Yeah,
what I can do,
yeah, like, that's impressive. You know, that's impressive. The running joke usually, and it's season by season, but I'll tell. They say, you've been playing much golf. That's what I always want to know. They'll ask the pro, how's your game? Been playing much golf? And a lot of times I come back, I've been swinging a shovel a lot more than I've been swinging a golf club this year. And that's the truth. You dig in irrigation heads, or a valve goes bad, or something, so you're out there. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a balancing act. Fortunately, we don't have food and beverage, so I've got nabs and snacks and Pepsi handles most of that. So
So I was going to say, so you've worked food and beverage in college,
did a little bit in the club as a GM.
right? You're a golf professional. You're a course superintendent. You're cut out to be a world class GM, in my opinion, because you have experience in all three of those areas, which most people don't.
Right.
And you seem like a very nice person.
Thank you.
Uh, so the final ingredient, and this, in my opinion, this is the hardest part, is dealing with club members or dealing with the public. So
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a pretty malleable person. I can kind of fit the situation and the person. I may not. I can be unpolished, and I can be polished at the same time. It depends on
Very
what
good.
situation and um but you at clubs, you have the good members, the bad members, the those that you just want to appease and get out of the conversation as unscathed as possible. Um, and you can't please everybody. And there's a couple things that I learned so far in the golf business. You can't please everybody, and you're always going to leave some work on the table. If you try to clear your desk every day and take care of every single thing, you're gonna run yourself ragged. I mean, and you come
Great
back the
point.
next
Great point.
come back the next day. I always said I want to be the best person myself that I can be. And my wife taught me a lot. I got a great wife and great family. I've got an 8-year-old son, and very supportive, and I'm a blessed man from that regard. But she told me when we were first married, we've been married 14 years now, and that was in the height of me, kind of taking on dual roles here at the golf center. She goes, I get the scraps of what's left over at the end of the day, and I would like a full you sometimes. And it made me think a lot, not just being a full person at home, but when I come back the next day to the job, I want to be a full person. I don't want to be dogged out from trying to finish everything, because you can't. I got a set of clubs that need regripped. I've got a marketing ad that I need to get done. I need to go grease the reels on the mowers. I need to redig a sign out on the golf course. I mean, I can't get all that done at the end of the day. You're going to leave some work on the table. And I think you're more efficient down the road when you know where to balance that. By no means, not doing
It's
anything,
it's
you know.
it's
But
interesting. I listened to a sports psychologist yesterday, a guy named Michael Gervais, and he said, I don't care what anybody says, you've got to get 8 hours sleep, you got to eat properly, you have to have time with your friends and family if you want to perform well as an athlete or a business person. And he
mhm.
says this bunk about, I worked on 4 hours sleep. He says, you're not performing at your best that way. And you kind of just described it, the right way to do it.
And you won't for very long. You won't for very long.
Right.
But I will say though that and I applaud a lot of the efforts these days for the work-life balance, but I believe a lot of it is just sort of window dressing the obvious. You still got work. I mean, the
Right.
job still has to get done. And you know it as well
Right.
as I do at a golf course. There's a lot of things to do, and even when you're not there, you still got to be sort of plugged in and knowing what, or at least have laid it out to where you know what's going on.
See,
And
now
now,
there's the hard part right there. Looking back, if I could have delegated more, because if I go home and worry, I might as well stay at work, you know.
yeah, yeah,
But I would always go home and worry, you know.
yeah. Well, I tell you a funny story, and this just happened 2 or 3 nights ago. We um, we've been blessed to get a grant here lately, and we put a pavilion over our driving range cover, or over our driving range tee. And we've got an automated ball machine. And the automated ball machine, which has been great, it gives us about an extra 6 hours of operation from the day. So we open our shop. Granted, we're not like many other places. I've even got an honor box out at the front door for when we're closed, for folks to play, to pay to play. But the driving range is open like 2 hours before we open, and it stays open like 3 hours after the shop closes. So people can pay at the dispenser. And it was like 9:30 at night. It was dark. I get a notification on my phone. It says ADT, uh, uh, we sense motion at this back camera. So I open it up, and it's one of these doorbells. I open it up and I look, and there's four boys standing. They got my light on in the pavilion. They're standing by the range machine, and I hit the talk button so I can hear them. And they're like, "This thing's on. It's not. It was 9:30. It shuts off now. This thing's not on. It's not on. Look at the plug and see if we can." It says out of service on it. I go, and I just hit that mic. I still had mic. I said, hey guys," and they go, "That's the doorbell talking to us." I said, "I'm sorry. I'd love to get you hit, but the ball machine shuts down at 9." I said, "But come back tomorrow. Just get here before 9 and you can hit balls." And they were like, "Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry." So, it's those types of things that allow us still to, I mean, my family went to bed. So it allowed me to still sort of know what's going on at the facility. And of course we got,
So
uh,
Derrick, I don't know if I'm impressed by that story or shake.
what can
Oh
I say?
boy.
But everything's cloud based now, so your cameras, your point of sale system, you can plug in. I know how many range, if we're about out of range balls and the kid needs to get in early if the weather's nice. I can look at my phone, see how many we dispense for the day, and know where we stand. But the work life balance is tough. They're feeding it that, if I've heard some places going to like a 4-day work week. Like, I don't know how it gets done, but understand we work 10 hours um, very easily in the golf business. I just don't know where they get the other three days.
Living in Thailand now, I can appreciate United States a little more, a little differently. United States is a very competitive society, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
if I'm here, I want to be here. If I'm here, I want to be there, you know.
yeah.
And it can be stressful, but that's our culture, you know.
It is.
We
And
got
you try to dial it down and keep the balance. Like I said, the balance of, you can't get everything done and you can't please everybody.
right,
Uh, and you have to be able to unplug sometimes, and unfortunately, you still got to unplug, but still be in control. That's the
so I'm sitting here, I'm looking at you and I'm saying, man, this guy, he's got a lot of skills going for him, you know. He could go from here to here, you know, but you might
I like
be
where I'm at.
happy. Exactly,
Yeah, I'm
exactly,
I,
exactly.
I'm I'm I see the light at the end of my tunnel. Fortunately, you're talking about retirement things. We are a municipal facility, so you know, unlike a lot of my peers, I found this gig kind of a little bit by accident. Um, it wasn't supposed to be long term, but stepped into a defined benefit plan through our state government, and
Right,
so
right,
I've been blessed, and that's held me back from taking some jobs that I've had offered,
right,
um, because I'm looking at um, what's after this,
right.
and so
Yeah,
anyway,
looking back,
appreciate it.
I think where you're at now is better than having 500 members breathing down your neck every day, you know.
Oh, well, and it's such a blue collar here, and I'm so plugged into the community, and it's really it's really a great spot for me. It suits my work
It's
ethic. It suits my it suits my personality very well. And I've had
It's great that you appreciate it. No, that's really cool. That's good stuff.
yeah, I've got some buddies who do the private route, member equity and privately owned and stuff. And I've been worked at those facilities. I'm good where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
I mean, I like my family's happy. I'm happy.
yeah, I think you're in a good spot. Based on everything I know now, you're in a good spot. It sounds like.
And the beauty is here, and getting back to kind of being able to be creative as an assistant, I've been able to carry that on. And I did a program a few years back called Golf Steps, and we tracked mileage on the golf course and created a website. And every time someone would play, we would log their round, post it to the website, and we would track how many miles. So it wasn't about score, it was about how much activity you have on the golf course. So I was able to do something like that. I'm able to, on the green side, I'm able to build a new tee. If I want to build a new tee, I'm able to, um, just it just I'm not
That's
micromanaged.
pretty cool. Yeah, I understand completely. That's pretty cool. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So give me a great golf course maintenance story.
Uh, well, I've got a number of them. See, for a long time here, we utilized Class D inmates from the jail. And so I managed anywhere between two and three male inmates, and they were usually C class felons, so nonviolent offenders on this charge. They may have had violence in their past, but they've served their time. But I would have to pick them up, or my staff would pick them up at the jail every morning and take them home or take them back every afternoon. And working with some of the felons, which has been great. Now we're not. They through COVID, it ended at COVID because they started keeping the felons in, except for some of their state road contracts, um, and it's been great, I think, for our facility because we're a family facility. We're a and there was always sort of a point of contention of now is that one of your jail workers?
Right, right.
So I'm not sad that that day has gone, but I did that well up to about 2020, so about 12 years. Um, 8 of it with men, and then the last 3 or 4 with women. So we had females. You talk about training. I trained, everybody always talks about training greens mowers. Like I got to work myself up to train to mow greens. I had a guy just started here not too long. He goes, I didn't think you'd let me mow greens right out of the gate. I was like, hey, somebody's got to mow them. And when I had Class D's, I bet you I trained 20 people a year to mow greens because
Wow.
they rotate. One of them would get
Right,
busted with
right, right, right.
tobacco, or they'd smuggle tobacco from a cigarette they found on the ground and smuggle it back to jail and get busted. And um, but some of the stories of just some of the stories from working with the inmates and there were some really good people that just made some bad mistakes. Um, I had one that basically ran a mower right up a tree. I don't know how, it was a batwing mower. I'm like, didn't you see the tree there? I just ran it straight up the tree and scalped the side of the tree. But there's those stories I could tell them for days. Some of them are a little bit rough, but probably my experience with the Class D's and I don't know if you remember Saturday Night Live, the Hans and Franz. You remember Hans and Franz? We were here to pump you up.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Harvey and I had 2 guys that were from the jail, and they were built like that. And I called them Hans and Franz, and they got a big kick out of it. And we just, but they were my muscle. They built a gym underneath. They take like buckets of old air fire tines. They're real heavy, and they get an old pulley out of or a pulley that had a bearing in it out of a wheel and and they would build these like weight benches in our barn. I didn't care. It kept them out of trouble. Um, but when because they work hard. They work 8 hours. Take a breather, whatever. I mean, I was never a hard supervisor. We got our job done, but just that was really that sticks out in my mind when that happened, when they started building a gym up in our maintenance building. So
Good
anyway,
stuff.
yeah.
Good stuff. So I remember one time I was marking a course the night before the club championship weekend, and I'm putting out extra stakes on the golf course to define hazards and out of bounds. And I'm marking this hazard, and I got a sledgehammer and a stake, and I'm wrapping the stake in there, and all of a sudden I hear, "Tss." I said, "What the hell was
Oh,
that?" Right?
okay.
I hit an irrigation line.
Oh, oh my.
So the superintendent had a house on the property. So here it is, Friday night at 8:30 at night. I'm knocking on his door. I said, I think we got a problem. So
Absolutely.
he
Listen,
came out and we did fix it. We didn't get out of there till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, but we did fix it.
you know,
But he wasn't too happy.
I bet not. You know, the bad thing about fixing irrigation hoses like that is that you got to drain all the water out of it before you can fix it. And
It was a mess.
yeah, oh yeah, I've got one hole that has just caused me problems, and it's a junction, but it's got a 3 inch line that basically feeds one side of our golf course, and but all of the control wire runs across it. I mean, it is just a mess. It just looks like a spider web when you look in it. I finally just blocked it off. So mowers can't drive over it, carts can't drive over it. I've just roped it. I'm tired of fixing it every year. I mean, it was that's every other place I've got I'm good with, but that is my nemesis. I always look for water down on the bottom side of nine because I'm like, if I got to fix that again, I don't know if I'm up for it. Takes like a year off of my life every time I fix that.
So you won 5 awards with the Kentucky PGA. Which awards did you win anyway?
Uh, well, I won my first award was in '07. I was media representative. I wrote a newspaper article for our local newspaper for a couple years. And it was called the Shelby County Golf Report. And what I would do is I would write a story about um, like a master's preview or a lesson tip or you know how to grip the club and it just I tried to have some unique way of something that the reader, the golf reader, or someone who wasn't a golfer would say, this is pretty cool. Um, I would have that story, but then in conjunction with it, I would call the other, well, the 5 courses in the area. And when I got to Clear Creek, the other 4, and I would get their green speeds, their rough length, their fairway firmness, and if they had any tournaments coming up, and I would list a calendar and kind of a conditions report. So
Nice.
people would know if the fairways are soft and the greens are fast at Shelbyville Country Club, and if the rough is 2 to 3 inches at Weisinger, that's another course here in town. So I did that for about 2 years and was and won the media representative award. So I was really honored by that. That was cool because it's normally a sportscaster or a newspaper person, or now it's podcast uh, authors or but it's normally not someone from within the association. So I was really happy about that.
So if you're a PGA member, obviously,
Mhm.
what's the one thing you love about the PGA of America?
You know, the thing I love the most about PJ America is just the sense of pride in this is I'm carrying this candle right now for the game. We're all invested not just in the association, but we're invested in stewards of the game, being stewards of the game. So if we want to see our future players and the game continue to survive, we got to share our knowledge. So um, I'm glad that they do a significant amount to support. And I've been a little bit, uh, what should I say, um, not the happiest with the PGA with a few things here lately. Um, but they do a good job. PGA coach is awesome. Um, and they've given us tools for a number of years to use for helping people play golf, and the education that I've received through the PGA, the continuing education that I've received through the PGA, I've been grateful for. Um,
So listening to your story, you've been a great steward of the game, and
Thank you.
obviously an integral part of your community. It's awesome to hear you talk about it. To be honest with you, I wish every golf professional was like you. Uh, you're on the front lines every day, and you're doing a great job. It sounds like, you know.
Thank you. Thank
Uh, what would be the one thing you'd want to change with
you.
regard to the
Oh, come
PGA
on,
of
Leo.
America?
You're getting me down a rabbit hole here real quick.
Just one
Uh,
thing.
I tell you, I think that the number one thing that, and again, I've been a bit critical about the logo change and more so the stripping of our certified designations. I think that's just a horrendous um, avenue that they've taken with their branding of the PGA. Um, but it seems like we're becoming distant, even though they say we're listening to members and we're member driven. Eight of, and I'm not want to be critical. I said I wasn't going to be critical too much, but yeah, I think that the PGA seems to be growing in a corporate mentality, and the members are still over here saying, "Hey, we're an association. We're an association." And you take, the executives at the PGA minus the boards of directors. We've got 8 of the 9 executives are non-PGA members, so it's a sort of a day-to-day non-member led organization. So I,
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm a bit worried about where it goes in our association. It seems like things are kind of watering down some for us. Um, so that concerns me as a member. I'm still going to keep
Interesting.
teaching the game. I'm still going to keep using the tools that they've provided me. I'm still going to be prideful in being a PGA member. But I think I'm doing my duty to not always be the most what should I say, passive about some of the things going on.
So, what would be one bit of advice you would pass on to a 21-year-old just entering the golf industry?
Mm. Um, might be tough. Um, be ready to work. I mean, it's like anything else, and I think even it depends on. And this is again, I want to be careful with my words here, but it depends on the person and the sort of the PGA is definitely favoring certain demographics or sort of things in a lot of their um, interests and whatnot. So I think that the traditional golf professional of the past is um, the road's going to get harder. If you've seen someone and admire someone for the past 30 years and you think you're going to jump right into um, that job is going to be different and the path to get there is going to be different. And it's not the same. So you're going to be you're going to be competing against a whole set of elements, a new set of elements that that professional probably didn't compete with. So um, but I guess my main concern, if you got to have passion before anything else. I mean, know that you're passionate about it and know that it's going to be tough. And if this is where you want to be, then there's all sorts of different avenues you can go now. And I guess that's the positive side of the traditional professional's role sort of not being what it was. That does open up more opportunity in different elements of the game. I think I saw they're now offering um, PGA status to PGA members in real estate.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I guess if you're selling timeshares on some sort of uh, property, maybe that's like maybe Frisco is they've got something done there where you can plug in as a real estate. But I
Right.
think you strong background in golf. I mean, don't be afraid. I could talk all day about my uh, probably for that 21-year-old, but I think my biggest thing would be ready for it to be difficult like anything else. Know that there's all kinds of opportunities. Know the competition is going to be different than anything that's been traditional in the golf game or in the golf business. and just get out there where you fit and be the best you can be.
Yeah, that's good advice. Work hard and be ready to adapt and move, you know. Good advice.
Oh,
Well, Derrick, this has been great. This is the first time I've ever met you, and I'm very impressed. You do a great job, it sounds like, and I think if you want some unsolicited advice, stick where you are because it sounds like you're in a really good spot right now.
well,
And
I appreciate it. Maybe one day I'll find myself in Thailand teeing it up.
it's a
Just
good
don't hit
spot.
it. Yeah, I hope I'm behind you and don't have you hitting into me.
But this was great. I appreciate your time. Best of luck this year and continued success. Keep up the great work.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Thank you. And same to you, Leo. It's been fun.
Have a good day.
You too.